The mayor of Washington, D.C. thanks Donald Trump for taking over the city to fix the rampant crime problem, even saying in her press conference that this could be an extremely positive move that has real benefits for the citizens of DC who are experiencing this crime epidemic. But nevertheless, the Democrats have to do their freak out. They are obligated to do their ritualistic criticism of every new thing Donald Trump does is actually one step closer towards fascism. They cite all these statistics from the DC police showing crime is down from record levels, but conveniently fail to mention that right now the DC police union is in a major legal battle with the actual police department. And you guessed it, for manipulating statistics to make it seem like crime isn't as prevalent as it actually is. One DC police commander is already on paid leave for his role in fudging the numbers. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel. We have a lot to get into in today's video, but let's start by hearing from Donald Trump what his plans are for taking over the DC police.
In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly. And you people are victims of it, too. You know, you're reporters, and I understand a lot of you tend to be on the liberal side, but you don't want to get mugged and raped and shot and killed. And you all know people and friends of yours that happened. And so you can be anything you want, but you want to have safety in the streets. You want to be able to leave your apartment or your house where you live and feel safe and go into a store to buy a newspaper or buy something. And you don't have that now. The murder rate in Washington today is higher than that of Bogota, Colombia, Mexico City.
So you can see CNN put they're kind of fact checking him here in real time and saying homicides from 2024 to 25 year to date comparison, homicides are down 12%, sexual abuse is down 49%, assault with a dangerous weapon 20%, robbery 28%, showing that rates are going down. So what's the deal with sending in, putting it under direct federal control if the crime rates are going down?
Some of the places that you hear about as being the worst places on earth, much higher. This is much higher. The number of car thefts has doubled over the past 5 years, and the number of carjackings has more than tripled.
Now, you saw that CNN was split screening Trump's press conference with the statistics that they wanted to show.
So let's talk about those statistics a little bit here. So it's not exactly how it's being presented. So how do you suppose they got these statistics to come down? Any guesses? Probably all on the up and up, right? Well, here's how. First of all, they refused to prosecute the majority of arrests. So in 2022, prosecutors declined to bring charges in 67% of arrests. We don't have statistics past then, but I'm going to bet you that it hasn't gotten any better. And step two, you keep your police force underfunded and understaffed, which they have. They have lower staff now than pre-COVID 2020. And they don't seem to be real motivated to hiring more. So crime doesn't enforce itself. Step three, they let their crime lab falsify true crime arrival times nearly 700 times. So their timestamps on murder investigations are off. And step four, they massage their statistics by downgrading violent crimes to lesser offenses,
indicating that crime was actually significantly down, and this is unjustified. This is an authoritarian takeover. And I got a Rachel Maddow freak out about this for you guys a little later on in this video. But Trump dropped a fact bomb that should startle any person who really isn't familiar about the crime situation in Washington, D.C. He said the murder rate in D.C. is higher than Bogota, Colombia, and Mexico City. And the White House Twitter page follows up posting the actual stats. Let's take a look. Washington, D.C. has 27 murders per 100,000 people. Bogota has like 16, Mexico City has like 11, Islamabad comes in at like 9, Lima, that's the capital of Peru, comes in at like 7. So Washington, D.C. is significantly more deadly than any of these other capitals. And that should be unacceptable for the American people. And not to
When I first saw this statistic, I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I didn't realize Washington, D.C. was so violent and there was so much homicide there, more so than Bogota, so than Mexico City. That's crazy. That's insane.
mention this 27 per 100,000 murder rate is the rate that they're bragging about being down so significantly from their 2023 highs. So here are some numbers from the actual DC Police Department. This is the total number of violent crime in 2024 at this point in the year compared with 2025 at this point in the year. It looks to be about a 26% decrease across the board. But violent crime isn't the only part of this picture. One of the major instances of crime that's plaguing DC right now is young kids doing vehicle break-ins. Now let's take a look at the numbers for property crime as opposed to violent crime. So this shows that it's only down in the aggregate by 4%. And it's this reporting of the numbers that caused the police union to file its suit against the police department because from their words, they knew that these numbers could not be correct at all. They're not just accusing them of manipulating the statistics slightly, they're accusing them of doing it drastically. And Trump is just trying to protect the people of Washington, D.C., as is his job as president.
What a mess. So DC Police Union Chairman, he called out the claim of 35% drop in violent crimes preposterous, saying it doesn't match the reality his officers see every day. But what does he know? Commander Michael Pulliam is suspended and under investigation for allegedly massaging stats to make violent crime look lower than it is. Whistleblower Sergeant Michelle Dussault even testified that leadership was instructing officers to downgrade serious felonies to lesser charges, like taking property without right. So there's a whole bunch of things going on here where they're trying to gerrymander the statistics and get them to look like something's actually happening when something's not happening. How disgusting is that? Instead of actually trying to prevent homicides, they just redefine them. Typical leftist Democrat strategy. If you can just define it however you want, then you can make reality and the stats whatever you want them to be.
Lawlessness and chaos was allowed to persist for too long. The capital of the greatest nation on earth shouldn't be some crime-ridden, fentanyl zombie hellhole. A huge reason for the crime problem in DC, like many other Democrat-run cities, is the incredibly weak stance on crime. Here's Judge Janine from the Five, who's now Trump's U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia, explain why in DC it's hard to send somebody to jail for shooting another person.
I see too much violent crime being committed by young punks who think that they can get together in gangs and crews and beat the hell out of you or anyone else. They don't care where they are. They can be in DuPont Circle, but they know that we can't touch them. Why? Because the laws are weak. I can't touch you if you're 14, 15, 16, 17 years old and you have a gun. I convict someone of shooting another person with an illegal gun on a public bus in the chest, intent to kill. I convict him. And you know what the judge gives him? Probation. Says you should go to college. We need to go after the DC Council and their absurd laws. We need to get rid of this concept of, no cash bail. We need to recognize that the people who matter are the law-abiding citizens, and it starts today.
What kind of morons are running this city? Instead of actually addressing the problem, instead of putting more police on the streets, stricter penalties, harsher, they let him go. What is the Democrats' obsession with protecting criminals and endangering innocent citizens? I do not get that at all. If somebody shoots somebody in the chest, they get off with probation. In what world does that make the world's, how does that make the world any safer? There's no possible way that could. What you're really telling those criminals is that it's okay. There's no consequences. Go ahead, do it more. It's almost like they have disdain for their own people that they're supposed to be protecting. And they have this weird kind of love for the people who do all the wrong things. And it's like this all across in democratic cities, all across the country. The crime rates are through the roof. They don't seem that concerned about it. You know what? DC could have sent in the National Guard at any time and done what Trump's doing. They didn't want to. They chose not to. They chose to let people get murdered in the streets, non-criminals get abused, to be terrified to walk down the street. Oh, what kind of moron runs a city like that?
Biden administration, every single blue city adopted the same soft on crime stance because of the woke left institutional pressure to classify any and everything as racist. This led to a surge in crime that all of these city officials conveniently blamed on the pandemic, not their own incompetence, and now are faced with the situation that Judge Janine just described, where someone can murder another person and then just get probation. How in the world does that system disincentivize people from committing crime? And juveniles are exploiting this broken system in DC. And adults are exploiting these juveniles to have them commit adult crimes and receive juvenile penalty. Democrat ideology is to torture and terrorize your own constituents with soft on crime policy, with dangerous open border policy, with indoctrination of transgender ideology, all in the name of social justice. And before, people weren't allowed to speak out about these policies ruining their lives because they'd be labeled a bigot and probably lose their livelihood. But now that's no longer the case. So we can start addressing real issues with real solutions. And that
Oh, we should all be happy that all that nonsense, that woke nonsense, is going by the wayside, where they tried to gaslight the whole country for 10 years. All this nonsense, soft on crime, is somehow compassion. Actually holding people accountable is somehow racism. You know, preventing people from looting stores so that they have to move out because their losses are so high is somehow racism. You know, it's somehow thinking that a guy who dresses up like a girl is still a guy, is somehow makes you a transphobe. All this nonsense. People are so sick and tired of it. It is so overplayed, and it reminds me a lot of what they're doing still with the Hitler, and Trump is Hitler's Nazi, blah blah blah. Nobody believes this crap anymore. I don't think the people who even say that believe it, because basically what they're doing is they're just doing it for attention and for clicks and things like that. They don't really believe that he's Hitler. That's such a stupid thing. And if you do, you're a special kind of stupid.
That's why the mayor of DC actually thanked Donald Trump for this move. Watch.
It takes 90 seconds for this NASA-engineered AC cool down your room. It's smaller than a toaster.
The fact that we have more law enforcement and presence in neighborhoods, that could not, that may be positive if people are, if it's a positive action. So that's what the executive order says.
So in my
Now, I got to give this lady props. I mean, she's not doing the normal weird Democrat Trumpy bad, pouty thing. She's actually saying, yeah, maybe more police force, more presence will reduce crime. That's a good thing. That's a thing she should want for her city. That's great. So she kind of broke ranks here, and she's in support. Need more Democrats to come to their senses like this.
Opinion, the mayor is smart to sit back, not criticize Trump, and just be able to claim the win from Trump cleaning up the city. She has all the cover in the world for her Democrat base. She can say, it's out of my hands. I literally can't do anything. This is Washington, D.C. We're in a unique situation to where the president has every right to do this. And then Donald Trump comes in and cleans up crime, homelessness, drug use from your streets, and makes it a pristine city that she gets to govern afterwards. But she can't look too excited, because then her base will look at her suspiciously like, are you becoming one of those people who have common sense? Are you turning on us? That's why she had to throw that comment in there at the end saying, this could be positive, but only if they do it in a good way. But that's all the Trump deranged liberals need to conclude. Well, she said it needed to be done in a good way, but we know Trump can't do anything in a good way. He can only do things in a Hitler way. So now suddenly this perfectly reasonable and sound plan to clean up the nation's capital and fix the crime problem is actually now a bad one because Donald Trump is bad. There's
Yeah. It's not about governing effectively, being a good leader. These people, that's the farthest thing from their mind. They think being an ideologue without actually performing their job well is all that's required. Let's take a look at this.
Unsafe. So what is it about?
You don't think more police make streets safer?
No, Joe, I'm a black woman in America. I do not always think that more police make streets safer. When you walk down the streets of Georgetown, you don't see a police officer on every corner, but you don't feel unsafe. So what is it about talking about places like Southeast DC, right? Ward 8, if you will, that people say, well, we need more officers to make us safe. I think we have to rethink what safety means in America.
All right. Where do they find such morons to go on these shows? I don't know how they find them. There's some special place where they go. But how does this lady get on TV? And why he said, you don't think that more police officers makes a town safer? She said, no, because I'm a black woman. What? In the first thing she does is to bring up race. That's irrelevant to the question. Do more police make an area safer? Does higher police presence make an area safer? She can say, no, it doesn't, because I'm a black woman. This is a factual, objective thing. So she thinks that a lack of police presence makes the streets safer? If she doesn't think more police make it safer, then she must think either the current amount or fewer police make it safer. Or that police presence is just completely irrelevant, so that it doesn't matter anyway. What a stupid thing to say. What a dumb take. And then, there's no police on the corners of this super nice area. Well, yeah, because there's no crime there. So the police don't need to be there to stop the crime. This is pretty easy. I don't get why they keep putting people like this on TV. That she doesn't know what she's talking about. She just repeats the talking points that have gotten so old over the years, and it's just so ineffective. She doesn't have anything of substance to say, any analysis that's going to be insightful to anyone, and it's just so annoying. So anyway, let's look into this, see if increased police presence does lower violent crime. So I went back, I checked. So this is over the last 25 years. Here's some examples. Philadelphia, 2011, 60 high crime locations got extra uniformed foot patrols for 3 months. And the result, violent crime dropped 23% compared to similar areas without extra patrol. As a Temple University study. New York City, 2004 to 2012, Operation Impact flooded the most dangerous precincts with rookie officers in concentrated impact zones. Violent crime fell 12% in targeted areas and shootings dropped by 15%. Minneapolis, 2005, they added 20 to 60 extra patrol hours per week in violent crime hotspots. The result, 40% fewer calls for violent crime in targeted areas during deployment. London, 2012, massive temporary police presence in high crime boroughs during the Olympic Games. Violent crime dropped over 30% in those areas during this period. Chicago, 2016, deployed hundreds of extra officers in high violence neighborhoods during peak summer months. Shootings fell 33% in surge areas versus the same period the year before. DC, 2019, targeted the city's most violent blocks with extra patrols and federal task force. Homicides in targeted areas fell 23% during the operation. So this isn't a theory. It's been proven over and over and over again. Philly's foot patrols cut violent crime by 23%. New York's Operation Impact cut shootings by 15%. Minneapolis hotspots saw 40% fewer violent calls. And, you know, it's just that it's this ideology that is steamrolls over obvious reality. And it's like the left and the Democrats cannot get out of it. They're stuck. They're just stuck in this weird ideological world where they already know the answers to everything because the answers are whatever they want them to be. They're not that concerned about data and reality and the facts. They have their mythology that they have to stay devoted to, regardless of the facts, right? Everybody knows religious people like this. I don't care what the facts are. Not interested. The earth is flat. The earth is 6,000 years old. That's the script from my religion. And this is no different. This is how ideology corrupts people's minds to where they can't see reality. They can't identify reality. They're not interested in what even is reality because they have a narrative structure that they're following that interprets everything. So just like a religion, if you have this story that can explain all of reality, then you can plug anything into that story and you can get the answer magically without actually having to do any work to figure out what's real, what's true, and what actually works. She's not arguing from evidence. They argue from narrative. And the narratives that the police are inherently harmful to minority communities. So admitting that more cops equals less violent crime breaks the script. Instead of confronting the actual numbers, they frame the issue as personal or racial identity, make a racial identity statement. Well, as a Black woman, I don't, blah, blah. Irrelevant. So she shifts it from a testable claim into a subjective, unfalsifiable position. That lets them avoid debating the measurable, uncomfortable fact that police presence saves lives, particularly in high crime minority neighborhoods. That's just the facts. And it's even more disturbing to me that she, as a Black woman, wouldn't want more police in these areas. She's apparently okay with more Black men being gunned down in the streets, thousands more of them dying this year, because it disproportionately affects their community. So by saying no police, thank you very much. We've had enough. She's saying, yeah, I'm get shot and killed. Don't care. What a horrible thing to say. She should be acting like the mayor, who's saying, yep, this is a great idea. Let's bring in more. Let's get this crime rate down. This is bad. It's bad for our city. It's bad for all the innocent people who aren't criminals. All right, let's go back to Brandon.
So simple-minded. It's this delusional, deranged mindset that had Congress members flying to El Salvador, whining and dining with an MS-13 gang member as if he was a martyr. Anything Trump does, they will pick the opposite side. I would bet my life savings on it every time if I could. And that's why you have the likes of Rachel Maddow supporting and defending crime persisting in Washington, D.C., because anything but Trump.
In Washington, D.C., homicides are down 32%, robberies are down 39%, armed carjackings are down 53%.
We already know these are fake stats.
Assaults with a dangerous weapon are down 27%. In Washington, D.C., the rates of burglaries and assaults with a dangerous weapon are at their lowest point in 30 years. Nevertheless, because he's so tough on crime, President Trump today deployed hundreds.
So here's another disturbing thing about the crime being at a 30-year low. Even at a 30-year low, it's still worse than Mexico City. It's still worse than Bogota. It's still one of the most violent, dangerous cities in the whole country. Even after a 30-year low, how bad must it have been? And how incompetent must these leaders be?
Of National Guardsmen and women into Washington, D.C. Send the U.S. military to become the police force in Washington, D.C. The lead in the Washington Post tonight, quote, President Donald Trump announced today that he is placing the D.C. police under direct federal control and will deploy the National Guard to the streets of Washington, an extraordinary flex of federal power that strips city leadership of its ability to make law enforcement decisions and could expose residents of the nation's capital to unpredictable encounters with a domestically deployed military force. A domestically deployed military force. Because tough on crime.
Yeah, tough on crime. If the city and if the mayor and the governor and the lawmakers weren't such bumbling fools and did it themselves, they have access to the resources. They're just not interested. This wouldn't even be a thing. This is totally the fault of the Democrats. They are the only ones to blame here. If they'd been taking care of their city, Trump is not doing any of this. And now you're making him look good because all the reality of the crime is coming out. And the incompetence of the leaders and the Democrats is coming out and being highlighted because they're not interested in doing their jobs. And Trump is. I don't know how anyone could be worked up about this.
You think it's really about crime? You think it's really about being tough on crime?
Look at her. This is a crazy person. She has fully convinced herself that this has nothing to do with crime. Like, I imagine if I snuck up behind Rachel Maddow and whispered Donald Trump in her ear, she would scream and cry and descend into a mental breakdown. This woman is so deeply entrenched in her fantasy world, and a dark fantasy world at that, if I may add, one where the color scheme is gray, it's always rainy. Donald Trump is this fascist who walks around in a black leather trench coat. Racial minorities are oppressed. People are in fear for their lives. Their rights are getting taken away every day. And because that's the world that she lives in, the president doing something as simple as legally reclaiming the DC police force to fix a crime problem that is so bad, the murder rate of the capital of the United States is higher than that of Mexico City and Bogota by almost double. There isn't a single fiber of humility in her body that will allow her to acknowledge that that might be the correct move. And her entire opinion is predicated on the stats that she rattled off at the beginning that in this next clip I'll show you are completely made up. Here's a report about the DC Police Department fudging their numbers to make it look like crime is down when it's not at all.
Hey everyone, big heads up. Paleo Valley's running a sale
Sorry,
on
guys,
all
we'll
their
keep
meat sticks
asking
right now. You can
about,
get 30 sticks for
have YouTube
36
Premium.
bucks, which comes out to $1.
DC police commander is under investigation for allegedly making changes to crime statistics in his district. Tonight, the police department confirms Michael Pulliam was placed on paid administrative leave in mid-May, a move that came just a week after Pulliam filed an equal opportunity complaint against an assistant chief. And the police union accused the department of deliberately falsifying crime data. News 4's Paul Wagner has the story tonight.
Well, hi there. The DC Police Union is putting its allegations on the record tonight, claiming police supervisors in the department are manipulating crime data to make it appear violent crime has fallen considerably when compared to last year. As of today, according to the DC Police website, crime is down 25%, a decrease the chairman of the police union calls preposterous. The union's allegations come as the former commander of the 3rd District stands accused of doing what the union says is being done day in and day out.
The thing that makes it so hard to find common ground with Democrats is all of their beliefs are based on faulty presuppositions. They'll condemn Donald Trump for sending the National Guard into LA because it's Donald Trump doing it, and will act completely oblivious to the fact that protesters surrounded a federal building, were lighting cars on fire, throwing bricks and bottles at law enforcement, shooting large-scale fireworks into groups of police officers. That can kill people. And the mayor of LA and the governor of California refused to intervene because they wanted ICE to be scared out of the city. They were openly defying federal law, endangering law enforcement doing their jobs. And that's the reason why Donald Trump sent in the National Guard. Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom were playing political games with the lives of law enforcement and their citizens. And Donald Trump, as the president, has a constitutional obligation to provide safety and security for the residents of the United States. And now they'll call this a fascist takeover of Washington, D.C. No, the murder rate in D.C., the murder rate that Democrats will brag about being so much lower than the record high, is still twice as high as Mexico City. And that's just the murder rate that they published, which we also know is completely false due to the legal battle between the union and the police department. They are openly manipulating crime statistics, and even their manipulated crime statistics are still really bad. And it's not within reason that a tough on crime president who has every single legal power in his authority to at least commandeer the DC police isn't going to do it. Why? Because a bunch of pissed off Trump deranged liberals are going to complain. Democrats continue to find themselves on the 20 side of every 80-20 issue. People voted for law and order. People like the idea of a clean, safe capital that represents us to the world. And that's why the DC mayor acknowledges it and supports this move, because Donald Trump is offering to solve a huge problem for her. But hey, just add murders and carjackings to the list of things that Democrats support and stand for. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure.
Yeah, so that's Brandon Lehman. So go check him out, you guys. He's got a great channel. He covers a lot of current events, politics, culture, American culture. And I really enjoy how concise and well put together his scripts are. And I think that he could just fit so much information into 15 minutes. It's really pretty impressive. So go and check him out. I put his link to his channel in the description. And let me know what you think. So when you stop being a little weak and you start actually doing what you're supposed to do, enforcing the law, you know, when you stop taking this, when you stop letting the shit determine how you're going to act, and you take control of the situation. This idiot thinks they can attack an officer. That's the kind of disrespect that is going on. And it's because they really haven't put any officers into these areas on any large scale, not tough on crime initiatives like this. So they go in there and they don't put up with this shit. Those days are done. They're over. There are consequences now, finally. There haven't been consequences for many years because of the city council, the legal system there, their pathetic, anemic response to violence. And now you see a real response. Like this. Look at that. Who does that? Push an officer. Well, and so when you actually start taking crime seriously and you start cracking down on these things, this is what happens.
On the city is quiet as a church mouse, young. I came all the way down Pennsylvania Avenue this morning. So peaceful, young. I don't smell no weed, young. I don't see no homeless people. I mean, I came all the way through the southeast side, all the way down here. You can see now I'm at the White House, jump, man. It's quiet, young. It's a shame that it takes somebody to have to sit in your classroom in order for you to be in order, young. Because that's what it feels like, young. You got to be babysitted to do your job, young. Stuff been out of control for years. You got to do better, young. You got to do better, young. And mainly, young, you got the problems. It's us, man. It's always us giving everybody a bad name, young. We'll see how long this lasts, young. How many murders was it last night? How many carjackings was it last night? Talk to me. And y'all keep on posting all these data numbers and things of that nature that y'all see everybody else reposting. The stuff that came from the Metropolitan Police Department and the mayor, young. Let me tell you something, young. Let me tell you something. You can't be that stupid. You can't be, man. Who enters that information to get that data analysis, young? People do. You can enter whatever numbers you want to make whatever report show what, but you can't hide the crime, young. You can't do it. Let me give you something to break it down to you for those that don't understand. I retired from UPS, right? So what they used to do to play with the numbers or whatever, we have mission packages. You'll have drivers over the hours. They'd go in and enter the information and the report would show whatever they needed to show to keep their bonus that week for their bosses not to fire their ass. So stop believing that stuff. And I don't know if you ever had to deal with the DC government, young, but they suck, young. They have got a lot more better now that the officers have did what they had to do and got all of these people out of the government and got rid of the riffraff and things of that nature. People actually do work now. Let me give you this for example, right? You got carry and conceals or whatever that were being issued by the DC separate department that was handling the gun licensing and things of that nature. They went from turnaround time for like 4 months, 5 months for you to have to damn get a gun registered in DC and get a carry and conceal to 2 weeks. It used to take you 3 months just to get an appointment to talk to somebody and take your information and your gun down there. Now, you go online right now and they got appointments available tomorrow. How does that happen? What changed? You put some fire under their asses and now they want to do some work. Man,
Yeah. So incompetence all around, you know. We'll see how long these changes last, I guess. Mayor Pete has something to say about it, thinks he knows what's really going on
here. The federal government is taking over the policing of a major American city, Washington, D.C. The president is doing this not in order to make the city safer, that's the job of local law enforcement, but to solve his own political problems. He needs to get his base talking and thinking about something besides his refusal to open up the Epstein files because he's mixed up in them. And he wants the rest of the country focused on something, anything, besides the work that he has done and continues to do to kick millions of Americans off of their health insurance, to close down rural hospitals, and to undermine basic functions of our government in order to pay for tax cuts for the wealthiest. I hesitate to use a word like distraction, even though distraction is part of his goal, because it is a legitimately important thing that he is taking power in this way. And he has threatened to do it in other cities, maybe the community where you live, maybe the community where I live. So how are we supposed to handle this? We have to deal with both. We have to stand up to the dangerous, authoritarian actions that the president is taking and keep a focus on the everyday impacts of his disastrous.
All right. That's enough. I can't take any more. This guy. So, are you concerned at all about the violence in the city, Pete? You don't think this is going to be good for innocent people? Now, maybe he is trying to distract from the Epstein files. I wouldn't be surprised. But I think that Democrats are trying to milk too much out of this Epstein files thing. It's mostly because they don't really have anything else to talk about, because they sort of have crap ideology and ideas about everything. And so they're trying to use this, which actually this was started by the MAGA people. And there's plenty of MAGA people who are also pissed off about these Epstein files. I want the Epstein files released for sure. I just want to know do you think the reason that Biden didn't release the Epstein files is because Biden's in them? He had them the whole time. Why didn't he release them? So he's trying to protect himself, protect his friends. Are we going to use the same logic here? Or are we just going to cherry pick and we're just going to apply it to one of them? Now, I think that Trump is in the files. We already know that because he was friends with Epstein. It's not like there's probably nothing incriminating in there. If there were something that was some bombshell about Trump, having sex with underage girls or something, and there was evidence and that was real, you don't think that the Biden administration would have been salivating to leak that? Of course they would have. That's what they did. That's what they do. That would have been the first thing that they released. They would have been like, oh, this is so good. This is so delicious. We've got Trump. We finally caught him. Finally, on something that we can actually prove, instead of just something made up. It's kind of surprising they didn't actually just falsify something about it and leak a false report about Trump's engagement in illegal activities with Epstein. So I guess they weren't creative enough to think of that. There's probably some intelligence reason, would be my guess. I don't know. Who knows? It kind of seems like there must be some kind of legal or homeland security, national interest, the names of assets, the names of methodologies, how we gain information, where we got it, who we got it from, who we're working with, all that kind of stuff. And we just want to keep it secret. We don't want to give away any of our secrets or any of our connections or methods or any of those kinds of things. So, but I don't know. That's just obviously my guess. But the Democrats keep acting like it's simply because Trump's in there. That makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. I mean, you have Biden's team falsifying all kinds of crap, Obama's team falsifying all kinds of crap. You know, there's no possible way that the Democrats wouldn't have been all over this if he's actually in there. So anyway, let's take a little trip down memory lane from when old dummy Pete here was actually in charge of something.
The crazy thing I think that you inherited was all this DEI nonsense. Pete Buttigieg, the former transportation secretary, spent $1 billion on trying to stop roads and bridges from being racist.
Oh, you just can't make this shit up. This is so funny. Who says that? Who says stupid shit like that? It's always these overly educated white people who say dumb shit like that. It's like, how did your brain get so scrambled?
What was that?
So there's a number of things that he did. For example, the Congress sends this department money, and then we give that money out in grants. And what Pete did was he added additional requirements to the grants that we would give out. So if you want a grant from the Department of Transportation, you had to have a very aggressive DEI policy. Or he would say you have to have a really extreme green agenda as part of your proposal to get the grants. Now, Congress never said he had to do that. He just did.
Yeah, because he's an ideologue. So he put his pet interests ahead of the interests of other Americans and industries who wanted the grant funds. Dishonest, manipulative. But this is the guy who thinks he's got it all figured out. He knows exactly what's going on with the Epstein files. Yeah, he's a real trustworthy kind of guy who's real solid in the mental capacity.
Did it himself. And on top of that, it costs more money. It takes more time.
Yeah.
So we pulled all that stuff out. On the racist road front, he had back in the 60s, were roads built through communities that might have been of color that separated them. Yeah, that did happen. But there were some proposals to rip out these freeways, to rip out roads because they were racist. I'm like, hey, put a bridge over them, right? Yeah. Or put an underpass under. If you want to connect communities, maybe that's the way you do it. But again, driving policy that there was racism behind roads. He saw racism around every single corner.
Yes. This is a big problem. And, people are just tired of it. It's like, just get something done, just keep us safe, just work on the economy, knock it off with all these woke talking points and all these left-wing, liberal, extreme, stupid stuff that don't actually affect anybody's life. They don't change anything. They just add new policies and new legal frameworks and all this, but nothing productive. With all the talk of these people like Mayor Pete about racism and solving it and whatever, they haven't changed anything. They haven't done a damn thing to help anybody. But they can feel morally superior to everybody else because they use their stupid buzzwords at the right time to make them look like they're the good people. And everybody's just sick of it.
To the point where in aviation, he was so concerned about this, he did change the name of cockpit to flight deck because cockpit is too offensive and too masculine, I guess. Or we have we have NOTAM. It's notice to airmen. He's like, oh, that's offensive. I need to change it to notice to air mission because it's exclusionary. These are the dumb things that they did.
So this is the kind of crap they're wasting their time doing instead of actually doing things about transportation. Oh, it's the words. The words are the problem. Yeah, the words are the problem. We need to change the words. So then everything will magically just work better, right? I mean, these are like children. Have they never done anything productive in their lives?
And when they did that, the problem is that they weren't paying attention to the main mission of the department, which is safety. And when you have these near misses that happen at DCA between helicopters and planes, you're not focused on that. You're focused on what language we're using around cockpit and flight deck. And so, again, I think they completely missed the boat. And in the end, they passed off a department that needed a lot of attention, and which is what we've given them.
Wow, shocking. The department needed a lot of attention. Well, they did redefine some words, and they did use a bunch of weird lefty buzzword talking points. Wow, how did nothing get done? How was it such shambles? Oh, who knew? How are these democratic cities so full of crime? I don't know. We're trying. No, they're not doing anything. Just talking. And now that there's people in charge who are actually doing things, they're bitching and moaning about that too. Because the goal isn't actually to do anything useful and productive for America. It's to just virtue signal and to feel good about yourself. It's crazy. It's dumb. It's ridiculous. People have had enough of it.
Have a new narrative, the left in general. The Democrats have a new narrative, the left in general. And one of the issues that
What? What happened? Well, that's not good. We'll just do it this way, I guess. Something got screwed up. Sorry, guys. This is really annoying. Okay.
Donald Trump. The Democrats have a new narrative, the left in general does, that they are saving democracy from Donald Trump. And that justifies almost any means necessary to achieve the end of destroying or preventing Donald Trump from governing effectively. The problem with all of this is they are destroying democracy to destroy Donald Trump. The Democrats have a new narrative, the left in general does.
Yeah. They constantly go around playing
What do I mean?
Playing the saviors of democracy, and you hear them repeating this over and over. We got to save democracy. We got to save democracy. Blah blah blah. You know, the thing that I've noticed is that Democrats and the left, they tend to project onto the Republicans. They call him a fascist. Well, it's because they're fascists. They call him a racist. That's because they're racists. They call him a sexist and a homophobe. That's because they're sexists and homophobe. They say they're saving democracy from Trump destroying it. That's because they're trying to destroy democracy, and they have been for quite some time now. Now they'd never admit it. They think that they are these pure saviors, of democracy. They get to interpret what it means, while they then go and use authoritarian tactics and falsify information to try to get Trump out of the presidential race and out of the White House.
What do I mean? One of the issues that they are agitating is the redistricting of congressional districts, and Texas, in California now. And the general problem the left has is if you look at gerrymandering to make these jigsaw puzzle piece-like districts, the left is way ahead of the right. In other words, states that have proportions of 30 to 40 to 50% for Donald Trump do not have that level of representation in the Congress. And there's been sophisticated studies of gerrymandering, and it boils down to the Republicans are short some 6 to 10 seats in the House based on the proportion of the national vote they have received. The Democrats know that, but they're angry about the Texas reapportionment and gerrymandering. And their attitude is, we've already gerrymandered our states to the maximum. Don't dare try to emulate us. James Carville said that they have to get tougher. That's the new mantra. Got to get tougher, got to get meaner. Cory Booker screams and yells and throws a fit about every 3 weeks in the Senate. Hakeem Jeffries picks up his baseball bat. There's usually a video with the squad or representatives using the word SHIT or the F word, kind of pornographic. Jasmine Crockett periodically calls Donald Trump names that can't be repeated on air, but you can see the anger. And now the new idea is that they haven't been tough enough. They have been too tough. What do I mean?
Well said. Another instance of the hypocrisy of the Democrats. They've been gerrymandering like crazy, and now somehow they're opposed to gerrymandering. I mean, this is so dumb. In fact, it's going to come to bite them in the ass, because I guarantee most people didn't know how gerrymandered these Democratic states were. It's in Massachusetts and Vermont and New Hampshire, where 40% of the voting population is Republican, and they have 0 seats for Republicans. And yet, somehow, Texas are the bad guys. It's another, again, it's part of this projection. Oh, the Republicans are the ones who gerrymander, because they're the ones who, the Democrats are the ones who gerrymander, and they know it. So then they try to put that on to the Republicans and make them bad for it. So Gavin Newsom's out here talking, big tough guy. He's going to take on Trump, and he's going to destroy the Republican Party, and he's going to kick them out of blah, 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 because they're going to gerrymander, because they're going to get tough. Which is such a joke. Gavin Newsom is such a spineless little wuss. He's so pathetic. And I'm really curious to see what actually happens, because it's not like it's an easy thing to do in California. They have independent commissions, things like this. And so, I bet nothing will even happen, and then people will just stop talking about it. Because Newsom's trying to, get his tough guy shtick on. Total actor. All he does is acting 100% of the time. You can tell there's no substance, there's no depth, there's no thought, there's no brilliance, there's no intellect, there's nothing other than superficial, typical California fakery. He hasn't accomplished a single thing. There's no way he's going to get this done. And it's funny to see the Democrats online stuff rally around him. Yeah, Newsom, take it to him. You're going to show them. No, he won't. He can't accomplish anything. It's all for show. Just like these congressmen from Texas, or these state legislators from Texas, these Democrats walking out so that if they walked out, then that broke the quorum. There has to be 100 legislators there in order to have the vote, which is a typical normal thing with committees and stuff. So, but there's 88 Republicans, so they only need 12 Democrats, and 50 of them left and went to Illinois. But there's still 11 or 12 of them that are in the state. I don't know, maybe not today. We'll see. But and Abbott can have them forced to come in there and vote. But the whole point was not to stop it. That's not what they were even trying to do. It's just about narrative building, because the Democrats are obsessed with building narratives, with constructing narratives, with mythology and mythologizing themselves and their party and the past and the things that have happened in the past. And it's all this story where they all are just playing the role. They're playing actors in a mythological drama in their minds. It's not about accomplishing anything. It's not about actually making America a better place. It's about playing pretend. And that's what they do, and that's why they're losing. Because people want real solutions. They don't want a bunch of just performances so that they can virtue signal and then not actually ever get anything done.
There's been three great scandals in the 21st century. The first was the Russian collusion hoax that was prompted by Hillary Clinton and facilitated by the Obama administration on its way out, that just almost destroyed the Trump campaign, sabotaged his transition, and ate up 22 months of his first 2 years. The second was the Biden FBI and CIA, but especially the CIA and the intelligence agencies, got 51 people, former intelligence authorities, to lie to the American people on the eve of the second debate to affect the 2020 election and claim falsely that Donald Trump was lying about the laptop of Biden, Hunter Biden, that it was fake, that it was a Russian production, and Donald Trump then was colluding again with the Russians. That was a complete lie. It was Hunter's laptop, we know, because the FBI had it in its possessions and authenticated. And finally, the great scandal that the Democratic Party and the obsequious media knew that Joe Biden was non compos mentis. He was not cognitively able to fulfill the office of the presidency, and they kept that from the American people until they could no longer keep it when he finally challenged Donald Trump to a debate and melted before our very eyes, sort of like the Wicked Witch and the Wizard of Oz.
It's all coming out. They can't hide it anymore. They tried to be underhanded, sneaky, do illegal things, do backroom deals. That's not how things work anymore. Their hypocrisy and their lack of morality, their pure concern for power and control is why nobody wants to vote Democrat. I mean, this is some serious stuff here that the Democrats don't like to talk about at all. They don't want to acknowledge any of this stuff. They just want to be Trump bad, Trump and Hitler, instead of actually addressing real abuses.
So my point is, if you look at the Democrats, they have staged three great scandals to try to destroy the Trump administration and, by extension, democracy. They impeached Donald Trump twice. No one's ever done that. They tried him as a private citizen. Nobody's ever done that. They raided his home in Mar-a-Lago. That is a
Oh yeah, speaking of nobody, you're not supposed to redistrict midterm. That's unprecedented. It's bad. Well, look at all these things they did that are unprecedented. No one's ever done any of these things before. They would say, obviously, well, we had no choice, blah blah blah. Of course,
a terrible precedent for an ex-president. No one has ever done that. They tried to get him off the ballot in 25 states. No one had ever done that. There were 2 assassination attempts during the campaign. That had never happened before. They tried to debank him and make it impossible for Donald Trump to write a check, whether from Morgan Stanley or Bank of America or any bank. So my point is this: when James Carville says we're going to get tough, we're going to get really tough, and we're going to let in Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. to get 4 senators, or we might have to pack the court to 13. Justice, I'm thinking, well, you always were going to do that. You were going to pack to 15. In fact, if you had not lost the House and Senate during the Biden administration, had you had a normal president that was in control of his mental and physical abilities, then you would have not only packed the court and not only, as you promised, let in 2 states, but in addition, you would have gotten rid of the Electoral College by the hook and crook of the National Voter Compact. And more importantly, you would have abolished the Senate.
and yet they still go around acting morally superior and smug. Like they know the answers, they have the answers, they know how to really run this country. Never really done a great job. Don't really have the receipts. And they're going to get tough, right? Well, if tough looks like actually accomplishing something and actually working for the good of America rather than your weird ideology and mythology, then that's fine. I hope you do. But we all know that these Democrats are spineless performers. They just act. They don't do. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for being here, joining me, and I'll be back soon, hopefully tomorrow. So be watching, and hope to see you then.